Welcome back to the show, everybody. In our segment today, this is a show that I'm kind of doing once a week. Now that we've got 3 shows a week that the Art of Photography is doing, this is the show I like to call AOP Pro. And what I want to do with this show is I want to address some of the requests and questions that I've had from people who are interested in photography on a more professional level, whether that's commercial work, whether it's self-promotion, marketing, fine art even. And so this is kind of the pro edition that I want to use as a vehicle to talk about that. And our subject today, I get asked a lot about photo agencies, and I think this is a really interesting question. A lot of people ask, do I need an agency? Do I need somebody to represent me? What do they do? How essential are they to starting your career? How essential are they to getting to the next level of your career? And I want to break that down and talk about it a little bit today. So there are basically, I think, 2 mindsets that you're going to hear when you talk to professional photographers about this. There are photographers that swear by their agency. They really think they help. And then there are other photographers that are not into going the agency route. And some of their reasons why are, they feel like they can negotiate higher rates personally. The photo agency is going to take a cut out of the job. Maybe they have more control over the clients that they're looking for. And so, I don't think either opinion is right or wrong necessarily, but I want to look at photo agencies and what they do and what they will do for your work. And what a photo agency does is they essentially act as a middleman. And so what they do is they represent a whole bunch of photographers usually. Depends on how big the agency is. You'll have smaller people who rep, maybe 1 or 2 people who do all the work, and they represent maybe up to 10 photographers. And then there are larger agencies that represent many more. And it just depends. So what will happen is the photography agency will essentially work directly with clients. And a lot of times they have clients that they're comfortable and they have a relationship with and they're used to working with. And what they will do is they will go to the client and they will say, okay, so what are you looking for? The client will say, well, we got an annual report coming up, or we have a print campaign, or maybe, we need photos for our website. And they'll say, this is what we're looking for. And then the agent will act as a middle person. They will say, okay, we have there's 2 or 3 guys we want you to look at their work. They'll show your portfolio to them and they'll negotiate the job. They'll typically, in a lot of cases, figure out what you're going to make money-wise off the job. Yes, they do take a cut off of this, but that's what they do. And a lot of times they will actually invoice and bill the job as well, which is really interesting. And so, I guess that is some of the argument. Now, like I said, the photographers that are not into this feel like, at some point they're going to make more money if they don't have an agent. Maybe they are able to go after certain clients that an agent is not going to be in touch with, or something of that nature. Personally, I feel like this. If you are new and you're younger and you're starting your career, or maybe you're older and starting a career, I don't know. But if you have very little experience with this, I think an agency can be a huge help to you. I think also for some seasoned professionals, an agency can also be a help. But let me speak to people starting their careers. Typically an agency is going to, they're not really a creative so much, but they're very much business savvy, and probably a lot more so than most of us who are creatives or photographers. And so my opinion is what they're going to do is they're going to be able to go in, negotiate rates at a more professional level. They're going to understand how to sell things. For instance, in my own experience, when I've had a client that comes to me and says, hey, we want to use you on a job, and you say, okay, great, it's going to cost X. And what if the client balks at that and has a little bit of sticker shock and then says, oh my gosh, well, wait a minute, I know a guy with a digital camera, and then you have to start in with that. And personally, as a photographer, and I know most creatives fall into this category, it's easy to get kind of offended at that, well, why would you want to lowball me? And a lot of times you start thinking, this isn't worth my time. What a middle person can do for that, or a third party, is go in and actually use sales points, because they're a little bit detached from you and your personal work. So they can say, you know what? That does sound expensive. Here's what you're getting. Here's the pros and the cons. And they can actually work with examples that they've dealt with in the past that are going to probably carry more weight in convincing a client to give you a shot. I've actually had this happen working with agencies where, there's something weird about it, and that's not what I do. That's not how I deal. And so it's really easy for me to just walk away from a job because I don't think that it's going to be worth it. And I've had instances where an agency has stepped in and said, look, don't worry about it, let us handle this. And they've actually gone in and negotiated for the exact rate that I want and turned things into long-term clients. And this is really big, and this is why I actually think the agency route isn't so bad. I think another reason that an agent can be really good for you, not only are they doing the billing and the negotiation for the prices, but as to the argument that if I'm running a business, they're taking a cut. And I know that is an argument that some people look at. I know I have colleagues and friends that do this, and they just do not think that that's worth their time. But my perspective on it is this, and I'm going to equate this to exactly how I run this video series that I do. I'm doing this full time right now, and for instance, my time as a photographer or even as a video producer, as I'm doing the art of photography, I am capped off. Most of us start, well, let me back up. Most of us start running a business as a one-man show. It's a really easy, great way to start up a business. It's just you. You don't have employees. Sometimes you're putting your own money into the business, and that's all great. That's how a lot of small businesses start. At some point, you're going to need help because there is a cap on how many hours you can physically put into a week. And especially a lot of times in the beginning when you're working 70, 80-hour weeks sometimes, and you're loving it, it's fun, but you can only get so much done. And then you have things like your time, your attention, your energy level. Sometimes you just don't have the energy to switch gears all the time, be doing all these things. So at some point, typically a business will start growing. You're going to have to start hiring people. So you might hire an assistant for a job on a contract basis or a job-by-job basis. You might hire people to help you with post-production. And then you start gradually growing your business. Even then, you're going to have to get to a point where people are going to have to be employed because they are going to have to help you with work to free up your time to do what you do best, which is make photographs. And I would argue that the agency is a faster connection to getting that done because they're not an employee of you. You work under contract, and so, especially in the United States, and I can't really speak to other countries because I don't know exactly how taxes work, but this can actually help you, and you're gonna spend that money either way. And so, if an agent is taking a percentage out of a job, there's nothing wrong with that. They're giving you a lot of value for that percentage, and they're making your life easy. And I think that that actually is a key to help you jumpstart your career a lot faster personally. So let's look at some agencies. I want to talk about who's out there, kind of some of the roles that they do, and how you might go about looking for an agent that might be right for you. So let's go over to the computer and have a look. So I've put together some resources that we're going to look at, and I think one thing that's really important for you guys to understand, and especially if you're just starting out, if you've shot professionally in the past, or maybe you're doing a little bit of that now, you're certainly going to understand what I'm talking about. But one thing that's really important to consider when you look at these is the role of an agency. And so an agency is going to probably be working with everything from corporations to maybe an art director, a creative director, designers, whether it's in-house or not, and they're going to try to find photographers to link up with them in a business relationship. So what they are indeed looking for, if they're going to make their money, is somebody who's got a lot of sale value. And so your work needs to be contemporary. It needs to be kind of up with the times. There's a certain look to things. And so, for instance, this is Wonderful Machine, who is, worldwide. They're a global agency. They rep some really good people, and they're very legit. I've talked to these guys in the past before. They're really nice. But anyways, they've got some good stuff. But, like for instance, their website is probably going to be what they use. Well, I know it's going to be what they use when, a client is interested, or a potential new client. And so this is trying to show you what all they offer. So I think it's really important to go through here. You can search by category over here, and you can see there's a ton of things that they sell that are in everything from youth culture, underwater, portraiture. You can go all the way to fashion and fine art and whatever. And you're going to see that they represent a lot of photographers. There are 51 pages here of people. And go through here and click on some of these people and see what they're doing, see what styles are in, see, when they're shooting architecture like this, how is it lit? What are the pictures doing? What kinds of things are they doing with colors? These are really important because this is the kind of work that's selling. And, maybe a harsh reality, but as good as you think you might be, your work is going to need to have that quality of saleability to it. And, that's what commercial photography is. So anyway, this is a really good way to get an overview of what's going on. Now, if you feel like you want to contact somebody like Wonderful Machine, why not? Contact them and see what's going on. I want to talk about that in a little bit, and we'll come around to it. Another thing that you can do, and this is a wonderful website that I found that I've never seen before I started researching for this show, but this is theagentlist.com, and I'll have links for all these below, but in the notes. But theagentlist.com is pretty cool, and very beautifully simple designed, and it's just a list of agencies, and wonderful looking website. And you can also search. So if you're more interested in maybe a smaller agency than somebody like Wonderful Machine, let's say I want to search locally. So I live in Dallas, so I'm going to pop Dallas in here, and I can see that, here's a bunch of people right here, and you can see who they are and who they represent. So for instance, here's Happy Artists, which is a company. I can go look at their website from here. I know that they're in Dallas. Here's the kinds of thing they specialize in: reportage, still life, lifestyle. Still life's kind of generic. Cosmetic, food, kids, and they represent a total of 4 photographers that they have listed here. So sometimes smaller agencies can be very beneficial to you because you might be doing more local work. You will probably actually meet these people in person, which is really good, especially if you're just starting out. And their time is not distributed between so many photographers. If you have an agent that, each person represents 50 artists, well, you're only getting 1/50th of the time they're booking at best. And so, depending on how in you are and all that. So that's something to consider. And I think if you're interested in contacting any of these people, go look at the websites, go look at the photographers they represent, look at the kinds of work that's being done, because this is what is indeed selling right now, and it's what's making money. And so that's what they're looking for. And so, you can approach it that way. I think when you are ready to approach somebody as an agent, I think you need to have your portfolio, you need to feel pretty good about it. You need to have a nice website that's set up. And we've talked about that on other shows before too. We'll deal with that coming in the future as well. You're going to notice that some of these photographers have, pretty junky websites. It's really just about their photography. They're obviously not coders, but anyway, but that's really important. And it's also really important to understand that you're probably also going to work with the agency before they will get you any work. And let me explain what I mean. Like, for instance, Wonderful Machine, my friend Wade Griffith, if you remember when I did the podcast, The Photography Show with Wade, he was my partner in crime on that, and he's a very good friend of mine. He's a wonderful photographer. He does it full time. And Wonderful Machine is one of the agencies he's represented. He's one of the photographers, Wonderful Machine reps. And anyway, when he first started working with them, they worked for a long time putting his portfolio together, getting his book set. And there was a lot of work that went into that before there was any jobs that had to be gotten. And what's interesting, though, is I think this worked out really well for Wade, and it works out well for anybody. There's going to be some work you have to put into this and some finessing. They're going to want to manicure you a little bit, and I can totally understand that because they're out looking for work for you. But they're experienced, and they understand how these things work. They understand how a portfolio needs to be work, how work needs to be laid out. So, go in with your best stuff, but be prepared to, be ready to work with them a little bit too, because they're going to want to work with you. And it's all to get you work. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so it's one thing to just consider. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. We'll see you later.